accept the explanation of why they don't open the major technologies like search and advertisement. And also when it comes to the privacy, I think that Facebook is really appropriating the way how to articulate that. So they actually try to become the guardians of the privacy. And then and if you go and see what they try, how they try to solve the problem of that, they actually introduce the idea of some kind of Facebook government, and you have like document again Facebook values, which is some kind of constitution or something. It's very much in almost the articulation which any hacker would actually do, and of course that any hacker feels like, oh fuck, what the fuck is going on here, because Facebook and Google in that sense are not really the guys to do that. And there is also another appropriation which I see as very important, is by the Swedish whatever movement of piracy, which was really dealing with the hackers issues again through the avant-garde art. So there is a lot of ludism, there is a lot of playing the outlaw role. And I think that they did a really good job in that. So it's very hard to appropriate piracy which they introduce. So in that sense, I'm really trying to ask you, how do you see that mixture which is here? And again, also sorry, just Obama administration with their ICT policy, and Tim O'Reilly and the others like Eric Schmidt is now actually giving the vision of the great future of the society. So that's what's happening these days, and I think it's very exciting and very tricky in many ways.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I agree that it's a very exciting phase we're actually in at the current moment, but we still have to see that a lot of these larger utopian ideas are still very much surrounded on information communication technologies, and thus they're not that big social utopias as yet. But one phenomenon which has very frequently been witnessed around utopian ideas was that the industry actually used utopian ideas as some sort of marketing. You know, when they saw that there was some sort of trend coming up, and that there was some sort of use trend coming up by also determining certain conditions of use by the users, like they want privacy or they want openness to experiment with that stuff. And they were just trying to go with the flow, you know, and trying to make goods out of it to sell them. In a way, that's sort of selling the ideas into the industry, you know, and feeding stuff into the industry, so it becomes changed, and you might be skeptical towards that particular kind of change. But in another way, I believe there are some good outcomes of that as well, you know, because in the end they promote openness, and in the end they promote privacy in a way. And so I think not everything that's being adopted by industry needs to be viewed in a skeptical way. So I think a lot of these local things which are happening now with the industry and with the politicians trying to implement some ideas of that are actually very good phenomena. You know, you just have to keep an eye on them so they don't try to just distract us and do something completely different. But as long as they stick to the rules and stick to what they're saying, I think that's a good thing.
My first question is for the audience, and by a show of hands, how many people here know a guy who maybe uses file sharing or thinks pirating is a good thing for society? Sorry. So, okay, so we have right here a majority political party on a policy which maybe not everybody agrees with, or might be a distraction from other issues like counter-surveillance, and those are all important issues. But if we don't join a pirate party or something like that that represents what we all believe is right, then, you know, either we hang together or we hang separately. What do you propose to do other than work together?
Well, I don't think it's not really my kind of agenda, you know, the pirate party, because I think that it has a lot of inconsistencies in their debates, you know, and these inconsistencies need to be removed first. And one inconsistency, for instance, is how else do we pay artists, and how else do we, which, I mean, there are very interesting and good concepts and good ideas out there, like the cultural flat rate and stuff like that. But none of them seems to be very realistic, precisely because the scientific rigor and scientific studies are still missing. You don't know if you can actually implement these things. It's just some first ideas, And unless you, until you do know that you can implement these things and that you can change it, then you shouldn't be promoting some political agenda which is completely off the core agenda and which produces some counterintuitive results. So that's just, I'm not against it, you know. I mean, I'm an author and I publish books, and the books get sold for, like the Utopian book gets sold for 35 years, and I get like €1 from this book, you know. I did 90% of the work. And also other books, I do 90% of the work, I get €1 for the book, and the book gets sold for 30 years. So I'm the first guy to join any sort of copyright, intellectual property reform, but... Pardon? Who paid you to write it? A university, mainly. Yeah. But still, I mean, some of the books are considered to be written in my private time and in my off time from the university, so it's not completely paid by the university. So anyway, I'm not against the whole thing, you know. The thing is, I'm quite in favor of a cultural flat rate and in favor of a reform of intellectual property rights, but I just don't see the relation to illegal downloads of Source 6 and Christina Aguilera.
Can you speak to different lineages of technological development over the ages? For instance, the fact that hardware traditionally has been pursued along lines of power, and not necessarily capitalist power in its current permutation, but also before that state power in general, and how we're seeing like a difference in the way that software, for instance, is developed, a more collaborative, democratic way that software is developed, because you don't necessarily have to have the means of production to produce it.
No, that's precisely the point. You don't have to have the production. You know, you don't need to produce semiconductors on your own, which is a very poisonous, dangerous process, very expensive, and so software is really free to be developed by everyone.
And also the way that like weaponry,
Sorry.
The lineage of technological development has traditionally followed lines of weaponry, because that was what changed the balance of power and how. And even the internet, to some degree, is a product of the Cold War, the Cold War mentality and the hardware that originally developed. You know, you see, for instance, the fact that the new open culture is really more random development than anything. It developed because there was, you know, hardware that was developed from a capitalist perspective, and then, you know, because of sociological things.
Oh, that's clearly a good thing. I mean, one very important thing, parallel, which we have here, is the atomic bomb, which was a major technology which could only be produced by major state actors, and that was actually a technology which determined world politics for some 30 years now, for the era of the Cold War, actually even longer, some 40 years, something like that. And of course that is a clear case where power interests and authorities just play a very important role in designing the actual social order, because they have the power of the production of technology. And that is and that, of course, is changed now with software, because everybody can produce software, and thus also the design of technologically oriented utopias is democratized in a way, and that's a very good thing. I'm getting out of words, so...
I have a, question, or would like you to ask your opinion on it, because I think like one of the main questions that need to be answered within this hacker society is the question of what do we actually talk about if we talk of freedom. Because as you mentioned, like in the US, there are these neoliberal right-wing hackers on the one side, and there are all kinds of other hackers on the other side, and they all talk of freedom. And there is a way of wording of freedom by the neoliberals saying, okay, you have the freedom to make money in a way, you know. That's their definition of freedom. The main thing is you have the freedom to invest and make money with that and more money with that, and that's supposed to be freedom. And on the other hand, you have like a different definition of freedom that says freedom from the need to make money, for example.
Yeah, that's a very important point, actually. And
yeah, and I think, like the file sharing thing is